Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM WIUX. And we have had a great week of sports. Unfortunately for the World Series, we had a couple rain delays. At least we had one last night, so we'll get Game 3 tonight. Had a great week of NFL football with some major drama in the trade department as the trade deadline just ended as this show started at 4 o'clock. Then we have a great week of NBA and NHL. A great week of sports, and we'll start on the NFL side. We'll get into the Giants first, and we'll move on to what I think was the biggest game of the week. Then we'll talk about these trades. The New York Giants, their win streak ends. It comes to a close as they lose to the Seattle Seahawks 27-13. Daniel Jones had a pretty game, went 17 for 31, 176 yards, no touchdowns. Saquon Barkley ran for 53 yards on 20 carries. Leading receiver was Darius Slayton with 5 catches for 66 yards. Now, the offense in general was pretty slow. We'll start with the offense. It was pretty obvious that it was the Seattle was eyeing Saquon Barkley and wasn't afraid of the pass, at least the deep pass game, like the long ball, because they didn't fear our receivers at all. And Darius Slayton made them pay a bit for that. He made a couple nice plays, a couple of nice catches, but the biggest thing I have taken away from this on the offensive side is, oh my God, do we need a wide receiver? And it doesn't look like one. We'll check one more time, just in case, it comes in after 4 o'clock. But it doesn't look like the Giants are going to get a wide receiver at the trade deadline. Maybe they sign Odell, but doesn't look like they're getting a receiver, which is very unfortunate because you need one. I think Kenny Galladay's got to come back and do something because you need one. You need a punt returner as well because Richie James, I think the defense was solid enough to win you the game. Offense wasn't great, but you could have won this game. But Richie James's 2 punt muffs, 2, not 1, but 2 punt muffs, cost you the game. You weren't going to win with that. Had a chance to take the lead, I think, with the first one, and then at the second one, chance to tie it late in the game. Give the ball back. They score another, put 14 up, and that was all she wrote. So that was my biggest thing on offense. You need another weapon, and we knew the Giants needed another weapon. I don't know where you're going to get it, whether it be a Kenny Galladay, whether it be somewhere else. Maybe Wan'Dale Robinson steps up a little more. You're hoping he can come into that role a bit. But you need somebody. You need somebody to step up because it was just they were stacking the box and Saquon did the best he could, but there's not when you don't have a threat of a deep pass, not because of the quarterback, because there's nobody to throw to. Everybody creeps up a bit. The safety's up another 3 yards. The linebackers are up looking at Saquon another 3 yards. They're stacking the box more. They're blitzing more for run blitzes. It's tough. It's very, very, very tough. On the defensive side, like I said, I thought we played decent enough to win the game. Got some pressure, 3 total sacks, 1 from Big Leonard Williams, 1 from Xavier McKinney, who, that was a great play. The way Thibodeau went wide, I believe it was Dexter Lawrence, went right at the guard, and the Seahawks running back did not see Xavier McKinney, and he came in and he destroyed Zeno Smith from the blind side. He did not see him coming. He put him to the turf, and it looked brutal and great to watch because that was a fantastic sack. And then Micah McFadden gets his first sack, saw a lot more playing time. Something to watch there as he got more snaps than Tay Crowder this game, as Tay Crowder's been one of the bigger linebackers for the Giants this year. Maybe they're liking what they're seeing from McFadden, former IU product. That's right. So we're rooting for him. I'm at least rooting for him pretty heavy, and he gets his first sack of his season and of his career. And overall, I thought the defense had a decent day. I know Dame Belton could have had a pick 6 But Jair Ward got his hands up, which is, you don't blame Ward for that. Adoree Jackson looks like a top 15 cornerback continuously. He had a great play against Tyler Lockett to force a fumble, was making great pass breakups all game. He, I think, had his best game of the year so far. But I know Metcalf and Lockett had a decent day, each having a touchdown. DK for 55 yards total, Lockett for 63 yards total. But I thought they did enough. I mean, without the forced punts, I think they don't score 27 points. I'm probably looking at more like a 21, maybe even less. So, and plus the pick six could have maybe helped. So I thought they played well enough. I know DK dropped another touchdown, but they ended up scoring on that drive, I'm pretty sure, anyway. So it didn't really matter. But overall, I thought the Giants played well on defense. Offense, it was clear that you need a wide receiver. You are going into the bye. You're going to play the Texans the next week, so I'm not too worried about beating the Texans. That is there's no excuse not to beat the Texans. I think they're the worst team in the league. Moving on off the Giants, though, I think the biggest game of the week was San Francisco and the Rams. San Francisco completes the sweep against the Rams, 31-14 at the Rams, and it just kind of take control of that division, really, or not. That I wouldn't say that because the Seahawks are still there and the Cardinals, but take control against the Rams, really, as now they have the season sweep. And the Christian McCaffrey really shined in this one. Had a throwing touchdown, had a rushing touchdown, and he had a passing touchdown. A passing touchdown. It is crazy. He was doing it all. They're like, why don't you put? I saw some memes. Why don't you put an wide receiver, linebacker, safety, punt returner, kicker? Why don't you have McCaffrey do it all? Because he was fantastic. Had 8 catches for 55 yards in the air, 18 carries for 94 yards on the ground, and of course a 34-yard throwing touchdown. He was doing it all. The Rams could not stop him. And their offense from the defense side, the other side of the ball, the Rams offense and the 49ers defense, they really couldn't get going. I mean, they had a decent first couple drives. You know, the pass to Cooper Kupp in the end zone was very nice. It was not gonna lie, that was a beautiful touchdown. Matt Stafford had a touchdown run. So you thought going into it with the Rams leading at halftime by a score of 14-10 that, you know, they could really win this game and kind of look going forward like the playoffs are definitely like are attainable. And you know, if you can continue to improve, this is a team that you don't want to face, and a team that could still win their division. And I'm not so sure anymore, as they came out very flat-footed in the second half. Cooper Kupp, I think, got 1 or 2 passes in the second half, didn't really get him involved. And that's the thing, you have to get Cooper Kupp involved. He is your offense. You run the offense through him. He's, in my opinion, the best receiver in the league. You got to be able to run through Cooper Kupp. And they did that the first half and just like went away from it at the second half. And I didn't understand why. And ultimately, the 49ers, you know, great. Fred Warner, again, fantastic. 12 total tackles, a sack, 5 solo tackles, 2 QB hits. He's fantastic. Arguably one of the most underrated linebackers in the league. He had Nick Bosa, who had another sack. They were getting to Stafford, and ultimately the Niners really take it to the Rams. And it's kind of surprising to me on how the Rams just came out flat-footed. And I think there's a huge Super Bowl hangover still for some of the guys on this Rams team. Is they just don't, I don't know, they don't look like the same team. They don't have the feel. They just feel like they don't have the touch that they had the past couple of years. And that's something they usually just don't lose immediately. And it's very worrisome for the Rams. I don't know if they make the playoffs, to be honest. I really don't. Now moving on, because today, are we sure it wasn't the NHL trade deadline? Are we sure it wasn't the NBA trade deadline, the MLB trade deadline? No, it was the NFL trade deadline, but it felt like all those because of how crazy this deadline was. Absolutely bonkers trade deadline. I think the biggest one I've seen in my lifetime. Really, it was trades bananas. We talked about the McCaffrey trade last week. Yesterday, yesterday, Roquan Smith, the linebacker for the Bears, was traded to the Baltimore Ravens. They sent a second and a fifth to get him in exchange with 10-year veteran linebacker A.J. Klein. From the Ravens' perspective, it's a weird one. It's a lot to give up for Roquan Smith on a expiring deal if you're not going to re-sign him. But you also have to re-sign Lamar Jackson. Talent-wise, value-wise, if you re-sign him, it's a great value-wise. Second and a fifth for who could be one of the best linebackers in the league when he's at the top of his game is great value. From the Bears' perspective, they got good value from a second and a fifth is good value for what he was playing right now. He was playing well, but he wasn't playing up to the standards of Roquan Smith the past couple years has been. Still tackling machine, but you felt he could have been better. The only thing from the Bears was if you were going to trade him, they should have probably done it earlier in the year. They probably could have gotten it first. But they wait to the trade deadline, and it forced it to be a second and a fifth. But for what it is now, I thought they got good value. I thought both sides did well. Then earlier this morning, the Vikings acquire from division rival Detroit Lions T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end. And this one was a weird one. The Lions are getting a second and a fourth, while they're giving up T.J. Hawkinson and 2 fourths. And the fourth, I think, becomes a fifth if they win a playoff game, something like that. But they did this because their tight end, Irv Smith Jr., has a high ankle sprain. He's expected to miss 8 to 10 weeks. This was a weird one for me. For the Lions, I just didn't feel like they got enough. Giving up 2 fourth-round picks as well for a fourth and a second just felt very weird to me. And Hawkinson. It didn't feel like great value. Plus, you're giving them to a division rival in the Minnesota Vikings. So it was a very weird trade for me. I don't think they did poorly. A second-round pick is not bad with a fourth for T.J. Hawkinson, but giving up the 2 fourths as well. So this was one of the weirdest trades I'd seen in a long time. I thought the Vikings did very well. You get 2 fourths, give up a second and a fourth, and get T.J. Hawkinson from a division rival as well. So I loved what the Vikings did. For the Lions, I don't know, really. It was such a weird deal. Then earlier today, Pittsburgh Steelers traded their former star, young wide receiver Chase Claypool to Green Bay Packers? No. The New York Giants? No. To the Chicago Bears. That's right, they traded him to the Chicago Bears for a second-round pick. This one's weird. This one's kind of weird. He's going to be a free agent, I think, in 2 years. He has the chance to be a very good and gives Fields a great weapon that he could use for the rest of this year and hopefully even next year. A problem I have with this is this is going to be a very early second-round pick. This is going to be in the top 40. So that's a lot to give up for Claypool. I probably would have given up the Ravens' second-round pick, the one in the later back half of the draft. I probably would have done that. I feel like they gave up a little much for a guy who's been kind of inconsistent the past year. But this is a trade that you're betting on the upside, and it can definitely be well worth it. For the Steelers, that's great value. In an early second-round pick, you can get a wide receiver. The way he's been producing this year, you can definitely get a wide receiver with that pick or somebody else very productive. So I like that trade for the Steelers more than I do the Bears, but I think the Bears can still work out winners of that trade. Then, probably the biggest deal of the trade deadline is the Miami Dolphins. They're all in. The Dolphins are all in. They acquire Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos and a 5th-round pick for a first-round pick from the 49ers. 49ers first-round pick from Miami. A 4th-round pick, and running back Chase Edmonds. And I love this deal from the Miami side. They ultimately also trade a 6th or was it 5th? A late round draft pick to go get Jeff Wilson. So now you have Mostert and Jeff Wilson in your running back room. I love that. Getting Bradley Chubb on the 1st and a 5th round pick, going all in. I love this deal for the Dolphins. I think have they given up a lot? Yes. But I think Bradley Chubb is a very big difference maker. And I think you don't have too many holes that you're looking to really need to fill that are desperate. And I like this trade for them. I really do. I like this trade, especially with the extra picks you got from the Trey Lance deal from the 49ers. I like this pick, or this trade. And from the Broncos standpoint, you got a lot back. You got a 1st round pick, you got a 4th round pick, you got Chase Edmonds to take over probably the role of Melvin Gordon, because that dude cannot stop fumbling to save his life. So I like this trade from the Broncos side as well. I think this is both a win-win trade. Great deal from both sides. And I'm trying to look, was there any other? I just talked about the Jeff Wilson deal. Oh, the Calvin Ridley deal. Calvin Ridley now Calvin Ridley, the former Atlanta Falcons receiver, gets traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a max potential of a 2nd and a 5th. There's a lot of conditions that go into this. As the Atlanta Falcons, I did not understand this deal. I don't know why you had to get rid of Calvin Ridley. I thought him and Drake London would be a great pairing together with Kyle Pitts. That's a deadly offense. Instead, you trade him. I didn't really understand that for not that great a value, in my opinion. Jaguars, this is a fantastic deal. I mean, if it doesn't work out, you're not giving up as much value. If you re-sign him, your max you're giving up is a 2nd and a 5th for who could be an elite wide receiver. I love that for the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars have a ton of wide receivers in that room. They got Ridley now, at least for next year. They got Christian Kirk. They got Marvin Jones. They got Zay Jones. They got a lot in that room. I'm wondering if they're going to look to trade one of them. But crazy trade deadline. And when we come back, we'll be talking about my picks for this coming week. A lot of crazy games. I don't know which ones are really... a lot of crazy games with a lot of big spreads and some with a lot of small spreads. I'll let you know my opinions right here when we come back on Scharf Show 99.1 FM, WIUX. All right, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM, WIUX. Let's go over these picks right here, right now. You know the rules. I pick every game here. I give you one lock of the week and one underdog that's at least 3.5 point favorites who I think could be the upset of the week. We'll start off with our Thursday night matchup as the Birds, they travel down south to the Lone Star State to take on the Houston Texans. Houston is plus 14. And guess what? I don't think that's enough. I think this team's going to get destroyed by at least 20 points here. The Birds are going to absolutely fly, sad as that is to say for me. That is my lock of the week. The Philadelphia Eagles going to Houston and taking their soul away from this. This is going to be an absolute beatdown for Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Moving on, we got the Miami Dolphins traveling here to the Midwest to play Justin Fields and his newest member, Chase Claypool, and the Chicago Bears. The Bears are 5-point underdogs. I like the Dolphins here. They just got Bradley Chubb. This team is rolling. I think they've entered the category of now where they can compete. They are a threat, at least, to the Bills and the Chiefs. I think they're in that category with the Ravens. I think it's those two. I think you got the Bills, Chiefs at the elite of the AFC. Then you have the challengers, and that would be the Ravens and the Dolphins. And they've entered that category, and I think this is going to be an ugly game for Chicago, similar to how it was against the Cowboys. But there will be no lapse like the Cowboys had where there was a chance maybe that they come back. There will be none of that. This will be a bloodbath. Then we got the Minnesota Vikings coming to the East Coast to take on the Washington Commanders. Taylor Heineke still at the helm with Carson Wentz still recovering from his injury. Washington is 3.5 point favorites, or 3.5 point underdogs here. Big difference there Because if Washington's favorited, I that might be my upset of the week, but they are not. They are underdogs. But give me Minnesota here to win this game and to cover. I think they were rolling. I think you saw that last week against, a Cardinals team that kind of plays to the level of their opponent, and the Cardinals put up a pretty solid fight there, and in a dog battle with a talented team, especially with D-Hop being back and playing the way that he is, found a way to put that game and put the Cardinals out of their misery and really get a big W there. So against the Commanders, give me Minnesota all day. And then moving on, we got the Chargers. Coming off their bye week, they're going to travel down south to play the Atlanta Falcons, who are coming off probably the craziest game of the year, where they ended up beating the Carolina Panthers. They are in first place in their division, which is absolutely bonkers to me. But Atlanta is 3-point underdogs, and give me the Chargers here. I think the Chargers, the way they're talented is, I know they've kind of been up and down, and they haven't looked like what we thought they were going to look like. I think this is a game where they start to get back to who they think they are. I think Keenan Allen is at full health here. I think that will really provide something. I know they're going to be without Mike Williams, but Keenan Allen, I feel, really drives the pass offense more than Mike Williams does. I think he's the number 2, and he goes off of Keenan Allen, and it'll hurt not having him. But I think Mike Williams, I was talking about, by the way, but having Keenan Allen back, really, I think we'll start to get this offense back into gear, and having Eckler with them still, and Herbert having a week off to really scout this Atlanta team is going to do them well. I think they win and they cover at Atlanta. Then we got the Las Vegas Raiders. They're going down south to Florida to play Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars, they are 2-point underdogs here at home against the Raiders. And I got to see the Raiders having a bounce-back game after this past week's debacle. They get butchered by the Saints, put up a goose egg on offense. I got to think they got to bounce back and look better than they did last week. They had, I think, a players-only meeting. I think Josh McDaniels, the head coach, met with Mark Davis, the owner. It was one of those moments where you look at yourself and you look at your teammates and you just say, what are we doing? They're better than that. The Raiders have much more talent than that. So I think they really try to put that last week out of the public and our memory by going out there and beating the Jaguars in Jacksonville. So give me them to win and to cover with the 2 points. Then we got the Indianapolis Colts coming off a stunning loss, or getting upset at home against the Washington Commanders with Sam Ehlinger at his first game at quarterback at the professional level. They're traveling to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots, coming off a big W against the Jets to really erase the week before's performance to the Bears, which was ugly. And not too many upsets I'm liking this week, I'm going to be honest with you, because there's 3 10-point plus underdogs. Then you have a couple that are pretty small, like it's a 50-50 game. So there's not many decent upset picks. This is the one I think that is the best one. So if you're going to take an upset pick, you're going to take a flyer, you want that good value pick, here is the one with Indianapolis going to New England. New England, you don't know what you're going to get, if you're going to get good Mac Jones, bad Mac Jones. You don't know if that defense is going to come to play or not. So, yeah, give me the Colts here. The Colts, they've upset the Chiefs. They seem to come to play when you least expect it. So, this is probably not, most people are probably going to take the Patriots here. I'm going to take a flyer. I think the Colts kind of, you say, whoa, where did that come from? Why didn't you play like that before? They did that against the Chiefs. I think they do that against the Patriots here. Give me the Colts to go into Foxborough and get a W. And we move on to the Green Bay Packers. They're traveling to the Motor City to play their division rival, Detroit Lions. The Lions are 3.5-point underdogs. I'm going to take the Packers here. I know they didn't get a wide receiver, and Packers and cheeseheads everywhere are fuming mad, and I don't blame them. As Brandon Cooks wasn't traded, they couldn't find a way to get him. But they still think they beat the Lions. The Lions are not a good team whatsoever. The offense is hit or miss. They looked a little better, definitely, but that defense is Swiss cheese, and I think even with the receivers they have, that running game is going to run right through the Lions. Right through them. And that'll give Green Bay a big win and start hopefully put them in the right direction. Then we got the Buffalo Bills going to take on their division rival New York Jets in MetLife. The Jets are 13-point underdogs, and I don't think they cover. I think the Bills massacre the Jets. I think the Jets, this offense is probably not going to put up over 20 points. I think this Jets defense is very good. I do think this Jets defense is very good, and you might see the first quarter, you might see them get a couple big stops. But I think as the game goes on, as the Josh Allen starts to recognize patterns, starts to see the coverages a little better as he's playing, I think the game opens up a bit and the lead starts to separate, and this game becomes a bit of a blowout for the Buffalo Bills. And we got the Seattle Seahawks coming off a big win versus the New York Giants. They're taking on their division foe, the Arizona Cardinals, at Arizona. And I think having D-Hop back really will change this lineup. I think it gives them a veteran in that wide receiver room. And when Hollywood comes back in a couple weeks, I think this offense could be very scary. But ultimately, I don't know. I think they got to put up a better performance than they did against the Seahawks the first time they played them. They looked decent against the Vikings. This is probably a trap game. I feel in the Cardinals, but I am not confident on them. But I will take the Cardinals here to win at home against the Seahawks. I just can't see the Seahawks sweeping the Cardinals this year. And we got the Rams going down south after losing to the 49ers, as we talked about before, to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers have been in shambles. They lost to the Ravens this past week on Thursday Night Football. Tampa Bay is 2.5-point underdogs. Both teams are sliding. Both teams need a win desperately. Desperately. And I'm going to give it to the better coach. I'm going to give it to Sean McVay. I think the defense for the Rams is better. This Bucs defense has not looked good this year. So I'm going to take the Rams to go to Tampa Bay and kind of save their season, really. Because I think also the Bucs, if they lose this game, while it really hurts, with the way their division is set up, they could still win their division. It would be tough, but it still can be done. I think if the Rams lose this game, they're probably not making the playoffs. That's how big of a drop this would be for the Rams, in my opinion. I think this is a must-win game for the Rams. I think they go out and they get it, and they keep their season alive, at least for now. Then we move on to Sunday Night Football. We got the Tennessee Titans going to face Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City is 12.5-point underdog, 12.5-point favorites. Oh, they are 12.5-point underdogs. Oh my God, 12.5-point favorites. I like Kansas City here. I don't know if they cover. I wouldn't probably bet that, but I like them to win this game. I think Tennessee maybe doesn't get enough love as they should. This is a good football team, Tennessee. If you watched them play last week, they absolutely destroyed the Texans in the run game. Their entire drive was handoff Henry, 10 yards. Handoff Henry, 8 yards. Handoff Henry, 7 yards. Handoff Henry, 10 yards. Then they bring in Dontrell Hilliard for 2 carries for like 4 yards, and then they get a first down on third down. And it's handoff Henry, 8 yards. Handoff Henry, 10 yards. And they could not be stopped. Derrick Henry is a machine. And this is a good football team. But they are not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion, are probably the second best team in the league. Besides the Buffalo Bills, this team is a machine. They are going to go on a tear. I don't know if they lose another game after losing that game versus the Bills. I think they are going to just tear up the NFL, really, and put the league on watch. That, hey, this is still the Kansas City Chiefs here. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs at home against the Tennessee Titans. Then we got, on Monday Night Football, we got the Baltimore Ravens traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints are getting 3 points here. I like Baltimore. Like I said with the Dolphins, I think there are one of two teams who can compete with the Bills and the Chiefs in the playoffs. I think this team will continue to get better. Mark Andrews will be a little healthier. I know New Orleans is coming off a big win versus the Raiders, but I just don't think that they're that as talented as the Ravens. I don't think they can pull off something like that again. Give me the Ravens here at -3. When we come back, but before we do, we'll go over our picks just in case. We got our lock of the week as Philly. We got our upset of the week as Indy. And we got the Dolphins, Minnesota, the Chargers, Vegas, Green Bay, Buffalo, Arizona, the Rams, Kansas City, and Baltimore. Those are my picks for this week, coming week of NFL football. When we come back, we'll be talking World Series. Man, tied apiece. This is looking like a fun World Series to watch if you're a fan. We'll talk about it right here on the Scharf Show, 99.91 FM, WIUX. Welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM, WIUX. And this World Series between Houston and Philadelphia, it will continue tonight with Game 3 in Philadelphia. Currently, the series is tied at 1 apiece, with Philly winning the first game after coming back being down 5-0, and Houston taking the second game, not allowing Philly to come back from a 5-0 deficit. And it's kind of funny how that works, really. Come back from a 5-0 deficit, don't come back from a 5-0 deficit. Interesting. But, the Astros are the team I thought they would be just going into this series. Verlander, again, struggles in the World Series. I did not expect that. I know he had his recent struggles, but I thought he'd be successful. The Game 1, he wasn't. That definitely worries me for later in the postseason, but you got to hope like one of the best pitchers ever can put it together. Kyle Tucker, who I said when we previewed the World Series, you can look back at it, was struggling a bit. I thought he could get hot. He had a big home run in Game 1 to really put the Astros up 5. And then JT Realmuto. This is my opinion. Him and Rhys Hoskins are the biggest catalysts in this Philly lineup, because you're gonna get production from Bryce. Schwarber's gonna hit his bombs. Bohm will get his singles and stuff like that with G. But when JT Realmuto is playing like the best catcher in baseball, like he was at the end of the year, like he was in the playoffs and how he is now, it gives the Philly another dimension that they don't have. And when Rhys is as hot as he's been in the postseason, it makes them a top 5 team in baseball. It makes them a very dangerous hitting team, because when Rhys is hot, there's not as many holes, not as many ground outs, and it makes up for some of his errors as you saw him make in the postseason. It makes up for a couple of those when he's hitting rockets. Didn't have any really this past games in the World Series, but JT has looked like the best catcher in baseball in this postseason, and it continued in the first game. And again, it really gives Philly another gear that they can go to that you thought was lost, as you thought JT maybe lost a step watching the first half of his season this year. He is not. He looks like JT Realmuto, the best catcher in baseball. And I know people are going to say Adley Rutschman or what's his name, Alejandro Kirk, or a couple others. But if JT's playing like this, he wears that crown, and he's going to wear that crown of best catcher in baseball. Game 2, a couple home runs from a couple guys. They had the pass ball for the Astros. Bregman hit a big dong, who I said was going to be my MVP of the World Series or postseason this year. He had a huge home run. He crushed that thing into the night, which was great to see for Bregman. As I love seeing my picks be right. Who doesn't like seeing their own picks be correct? Game 3 tonight, what am I looking for? Again, can Philly not give themselves this big hole to start the game, not go down 5-0? Because they're not. If they keep doing that, they're not going to come back every time. Maybe they come back one more time, but they're going to lose the World Series if they keep putting themselves in a hole. And the relief pitching for Houston, or at least inning 5 and above, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once you get into the middle and back half of the innings, how do they respond? That's usually when Philly seems to get hot the most. Is towards the back half of the game, they'll start putting up some runs. Can they quiet down this Phillies offense? I will say, I think if Houston wins this game in Game 3, I think it's big trouble for the Phillies because I think they will win either Game 4 or Game 5, maybe even both. I did say that the Astros would win 5. So if they win Game 3, I think it's very tough for the Phillies to come and win this World Series. I think this is kind of a must-win game for Philly here in Game 3. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely be watching this game as this postseason has been great entertainment for baseball. Moving on a bit to basketball, Brooklyn Nets head coach Steve Nash, he's gone. He's out of here. Sayonara. He's been fired. Apparently it was mutual. I don't know about that, but he is gone. Nets have not started off great. They are off to, here, let me get it. One sec. I think they're 2-5. 2-5. I'm spot on. I am spot on. They are 2-5 coming into today after beating the Pacers last night. And I think it was just time to move on. I know it was weird that they kept him after the offseason, but I just didn't think Nash was a great head coach. Obviously, Hall of Fame player and great basketball mind. I didn't think he worked out as a coach, especially with these Nets personalities. I just didn't think he knew how to handle everybody and knew how to run the offense with them. Maybe he works out somewhere else, but he wasn't a good fit for us here. And apparently, they're going to hire who was the former Boston Celtics coach who got suspended, Ime Udoka, to be their head coach within the next 24 to 48 hours. And I know he had some problems in Boston, but he helped lead that team to an NBA Finals. He's a great head coach. I think he'll get the respect of the locker room, I think a lot of people respected him. I think what he did was, I can't get into it too much on the radio here, but just go look it up, what happened with him in Boston. But ultimately, as a coach, I think he can be very successful here, so I like the hire. The biggest surprise in the NBA, though, to start this year, I mean, you can't look too much into it. I feel like the NBA takes a bit to get going. I mean, you see the Nets, you see Boston's not starting off right. I am concerned about the Lakers. We talked about them last week for a bit, but they did get their first win. Russ looked great as the sixth man, so we'll see if that starts to get a turning point. But Utah Jazz, they are 6-2. They have been fantastic after getting rid of Gobert, after getting rid of Donovan Mitchell. Danny Ainge, probably you wanted to get in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. It seems like he's a Wreck-It Ralph, or Fix-It Felix, my bad, from the Wreck-It Ralph movie. Just everything he touches, he fixes, whether it's on purpose or by accident, which is hilarious. But I do not think this is sustainable. When you're having a guy like Lauri Markkanen average over 22 points per game, he's a good player. He's averaged 18 before in a season. That was a lot. I think it was his second year in the league. I just don't see this as sustainable. I think they're going to start to get exposed a bit, but I think they're taking advantage of good chemistry, buying into the coach's system there in Utah, and just really all putting 110% effort, which at the beginning of the year could earn you a couple wins. I think that's what they're doing, and they're establishing a good culture. Again, I don't think it will last. I think it can last maybe another 10, 15 games, but then I think you're going to start to see the fall off as the talented teams start to get going and really find themselves, and the talent will start to overwhelm Utah as they fade a bit into the black night of the under the playoff lines. But yeah, so far basketball's been kind of crazy. Some teams have really figured it out early in the season. Some teams have not. But we'll see. We're only 5 to 7 games really into the NBA season, so still a long ways to go. Long ways to go in the NBA season. And you know what you could be said the same about the NHL season, but how can you not be hyped about the New Jersey Devils? My New Jersey Devils are right now sitting at 6-3. They were 0-2. Now they are 6-3, coming off of huge wins versus Columbus, 7-1, and then shutting out the Colorado Avalanche 1-0. They'll play tonight in Vancouver at 10 o'clock, and this team has been fantastic. The Devils have arrived. If you look at all the analytics, this team is the best at defensive goals against average, or what they should be. Best at average goals. Should be scoring the most. Their goaltending is not great, but it's gotten better. Vanacek has had a great past couple games. Blackwood has looked a lot better. And if you're going to get the goaltending, this team has been playing phenomenal. They've really started to turn an edge. They're getting a lot of shots on goal. That seems to be their culture and how they're going to play. A lot of shots on net. They're going to have a great penalty kill, and it seems the power play is starting to get better each and every day, each and every game, each and every week. And that is something you love to see. Jesper Bratt continues to be absolutely phenomenal. He has at a point in each game he's going to look to tie the Devils' record here for points in the first 10 games. He is at 4 goals and 11 assists for 15 points in 9 games. This dude's going to get paid. Devils have to pay him. He has been phenomenal. Both your franchise centers have been great. Nico Hischier with 9 points in 8 games. Jack Hughes with 8 points in 8 games. Dougie Hamilton, who people said needed a bounce back year. I thought he had an okay year last year, just the injuries after I think his jaw, it really got to him. He has 7 points in 9 games. You know, and you're getting production from guys down the lineup as well. You know, Fabian Zetterlund scored his first goal of the year a couple games ago. Miles Wood had a great goal against Columbus. He's putting up some points. Dawson Mercer continues to be a great player here. He has 5 points on the year, 3 goals, 2 assists. This is a team that can really, I think, is really starting to take that next step. Say they are going to make the playoffs. We are going to compete. This is a team that's not looking at the draft anymore. It is looking for cups. It is looking for contention, and it is so good to see because you knew it was coming with the talent. You just didn't know when. Was it going to be this year? Was it going to be next year? Or even 2 years? You knew it was in the next probably 3 years this team was going to take that step. And it looks like it's this year, and it's great to see. I think if the goaltending can keep up with Blackwood and with Vanacek. Vanacek, again, like I said, had a rough first game, but really starting to come into his own. He's played 5 games now. He's 3-1. He's got a save percentage. It was in the 780s. It's now up to a 903 save percentage with a 2.08 goals against average. Blackwood's up again. He's starting to play better. 5 games, 3-2 with an 871 save percentage. That save percentage is not good, but it's better. It's getting up there. He's been playing better the past couple games. So this is a team second in the Metropolitan right now. You know, with the chance to I think if Carolina is not playing today, to move into first place. A team that I'm very excited to continue to watch. They have been. This is the team that I've been hoping for, dreaming for, and looking forward to watch. And they have been that and more this year. But that'll do it here for the Scharf Show tonight. Thank you guys so much for listening. I look forward to this great sports week ahead. We got football, we got basketball, we got baseball, and we got hockey. Like always, we got college football still. Maybe we'll try to talk about some college football if we can next week. We'll try. There's just so much to talk about, so much sports. It's hard to fit it all into a 1-hour show. College basketball is going to start, I think, is it next week or the week after? But that starts very soon. Excited for that. So, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Josh Scharf here on 99.1 FM WIUX. I will see you on the other side.